Country people, I throway salute. As una sabi am, dis one na undaunted pidgin news, place wey tori no dey hide, na dat so. Shake shake no dey. Na me tori pikin Su aka talk am all. I don come again, make we match fire. Tori for today na dat so. For dat side for West region for Republic country, one Daniel man wey call himself say doctor man wey na butcher, he butcher some yango anyhow sotey dem yango kware. Again for inside story, big oga for Republic Ekelebe dey talk say dem lock all Ekelebe their credit union sika say e dey help with voices in the bushes for get money. Gather your sikin, she don trade for corner of television or any place wey dey look me, even na for social media, she don for down look me because I dey come back for broke the tori fine. I dey come back. The tori wey comot for dat side for West country for we Republic country na say some man wey dey call himself say Daniel wey talk to say he be doctor. I no know if na Ngambe doctor or na which kind of doctor man my country people. Hospital sef wey dis man suppose hook up all time dey go dey like he had even better doctor dem dey do am. Dis Daniel man no dey even go dey. Tori dis man turn na Isakaba on top one 29-year-old Gondere wey dem dey call it say Bitwa Prestige Isikin. I say the doctor man turn na kung fu mon for butcher me dis Gondere wey una dey see am so. I say him dividing Gondere like a bushmeat. Even na doctor man wey dey still go school no fit do the kind of work. I know say the way e dey show, dis man be the Dutch class time wey e be dey learn for school. All work wey dis man dey ever do am, e dey ever bring na big palava for we people for quarter. And I no know side wey Republic Ekelebe dem be dey since. Wey na now wey dey wan claim say dey sabi work, dey wan show themselves inside the palava. When na time wey person don die, na that time dem dey come strong. I say only cry wey e be dey no be na small one. Country people cry, even the mommy and the papa dem cry plenty. Country people no be wicked dis. Sef family for dis Gondere talk say e no go better for dis wicked man. He dey call himself say he be Dr. Daniel wey we no know which hospital he dey go do doctor work. Last Republic Bele don enter for inside the place, catch dis man, take e go straight for Ngata for place wey he be suppose don dey there since. Public thing dem e dey ever come na late and na so all dem dey do their thing. Any kind of bad thing for palava money, Republic people dem fit do am. I say well, shame for Republic and shame for dis doctor. No be say na only we so, because I no know how country man go fit butcher another person for dis kind of way. Tori wey enter we ear dey show say dis Gondere dey ever complain all time say he over fat. He say the fat wey papa God give, he over plenty. Na so dis Gondere start for the ask combi to combi how he go fit for do the fat make e comot for his skin. So the last he go fall na for hand for the butcher. I say the man butcher the Gondere anyhow. If he top the butcher man so na for Baham. Na so the butcher man say make he carry the Gondere go for a workplace for Fumbot. And as the tori dey show, Bitwa no even tell him mommy or tell him papa before he go the kind of bad worker. Time wey the Gondere don come back for that Fumbot wey him go so, him mommy no even sabi again. Sef for Shindon wey no dey. Now see how wey all thing don turn kabi. The one also na warning for all man. Make all we Gondere dem look out Like yourself. We suppose like ourselves. Because if you no like yourself, I don't know if you fit fix someone. Abeg country people, make man no enter for this kind of foolish palava again. Make we learn sense for this kind of thing. Republic Bele dem dey claim say according to the work wey the man work, e dey show say book sef go show say e be doctor wey suppose go hospital, e no even get am. Country people, for another tori wey dey enter our ear for we ABC come be dem, e dey show say big man for Ekelebe dey talk say make dem lock all credit union because say dem dey help with bosses in the bushes. The money thing wey Republic no know na say Ekelebe credit union no start na today. Now the thing wey dem dey try for lock am, we no know how dem wan do because e don be so since. We get one for Boya, we get one for Agbakpa, we even get one for Bui. Republic don mean say dem go finish all we Ngambe people because dem dey claim say na the Ngambe people dey give the bosses in the bushes all the power wey dem dey get am plenty. They don kill plenty for Ngambe people. Then as you see am so, we boy dey say sheshek no dey, say dem still dey, say dem still stand up strong. We Ambazonian people no go gree say dem go spoil our place as dem dey spoil their own with im money. My own no correct for here. I don talk my own finish. I go give chance for my combi dem, Oni Okpala and Star, make dem continue for bogi tori for big grammar. Una stay fine.
Good evening and welcome to Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. I am Star Smart. Let's begin. An examination of conflicts around the world reveal that only lawless non-state actors like ISIS, Boko Haram can launch attacks in hospitals, churches, and markets. However, since declaring war on the minority English-speaking people of British Cameroon, the French Cameroon Hutu militia soldiers of genocidal Paul Biya have violated every rule governing armed conflict. The industrious and peace-loving peoples of the British Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia have been dealt all manners of arrow through their heart by the arrogant French Cameroon soldiers ordered by their octogenarian President Biya. Since this war and genocide against the peoples of Ambazonia started 7 years ago, has the colonial La Republic stopped? Well, with the daily reports on more atrocious acts from the terrorizing La Republic forces under the command of their octogenarian ruler, that answer should be crystal clear by now. But the Ambazonian Restoration Forces, like never before, are always ready to protect its territory and citizens with the help and support of programs like the draft to provide them the equipment they need to do so. On Saturday, we drafted Donga Matung County, and this weekend, we draft Mezam County, alternatively called the Power County. Well, while you brace up for the drafts of the weekend, let's get you into the full briefings of Undaunted tonight, coming up right after the prime headlines.
Right, here are the prime headlines for tonight. Lake news: after 37 years, survivors accuse La Republic de Cameroon of abandonment. Ambazonia War of Liberation. Tonight we will revisit the Bakundu massacre of 2nd February 2019. Unlicensed health practitioner kills a patient. What happened? That story is of interest to you tonight. Closure of all police credit units in Ambazonia is another report that we will look into. And on the African scene, we have news from Africa and the globe, and we have trending news from the world. Now in Africa, Argentina Mark Meadows asks federal court for Georgia charges to be in sports. Spain kiss scandal continues to escalate. Vice President demands resignation. Now let's get the news in detail.
Our vision in this interim government is to make APC a leader and a real war horse of our struggle. We want to grow it, expand it, hire and train more hands, and broadcast round the clock, around the world, and take command of the media space of this world.
You can enjoy all round the clock, 24/7 exclusive moments of bliss. APC Amba Club member, acapella. Latest Nigerian stroke African movies, politics, ABC Amba News and updates, historical documentaries, and lots more. In our daily programs, we have Undaunted, ABC Amba News, bringing into the news untold stories with Onyi Okpala and Star Smart. Exclusive discussion, revolutionary panel conversation, infotainment, edutainment, intro governmental debates on topical issues with Tar Paddy King, State of the Liberation Movement, Fronting IG and People of Ambazonia's Position, the Struggles Weekly Update with Secretary Martin Mungwa, PhD, FASCE. Health is Wealth, Health Education and Awareness within the Ambazonian community with Dr. Yaya. Liberation Prayer and Intercessory Ministry from here with Pastor Victor Mba. Our Freedom, Spiritual Awareness and Education for the Ambazonian Community with Pastor Victor Mba and Pastor Commando. Church and Politics, Neutralizing the Myths and Preconceived Religious and Political Philosophies that limit the Christian involvement in the realms of decent politics with Pastor Commando. The Horizon, the Voice of the Ambazonian Woman with Dr. Patience Abiedo and Lady Casey. Our Amber History, bringing to limelight the hidden history of Ambazonia to the world with Pastor Commando. Appointment on community building, education on patriotism within the Ambazonian communities with Ma Rachel Itatima. Ethics for an Emerging Nation, watchdog of basic principles and morals of a nation at war with Ma Dorothy Ngwa. Upcoming programs: Pigeon News, Vernacular Talk Show, County Roots, Activists Corner, Amba Focus, only on ABC Amba Television. We the people, the voice of the voiceless. For 24/7 access, subscribe as a club member on www.abcambatv.com/subscribe.
Here is a story of a people, part of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, full-fledged people, I mean humans, that the Colonial Republic of Cameroon government decided in 1986 to use as guinea pigs for a specimen. After the colonial dictator Paul Biya visited Bamenda in 1985 and declared that Bamenda was his second home, he dropped a bomb in Lake News, killing 1,746 people and 3,500 livestock. This is an intelligent report of what transpires in news that has been hidden from the entire world, given that the lone media at that time was a La Republic du Cameroon run news outlet. The CTV, today known as CRTV. Let's start here for tonight. How are you doing, Steph?
Oh, very well on you. Good evening, Ambazonians. Well, the version of the story that La Republic gave to the public as reason for the explosion at Lake Nyos, the colonial-run La Republic news outlet said a limnic eruption was the cause. Curiously, no foreign media, no country, not even America, investigated the story to let the people of Ambazonia and the entire world know what happened. Yesterday marked the 37th anniversary of La Republic's planned massacre of the people of Ambazonia. Those who survived the Lake Nyos La Republic planned disaster are today complaining that the same La Republic who perpetrated the massacre has abandoned them. The question here is, how can the people of Ambazonia from Nyos be complaining that the same La Republic who killed their relatives is not taking care of them?
August 21 marks exactly 37 years since more than 1,000 people died in the Lake News disaster following an explosion at the lake situated in the northern zone. Official statistics declared 1,746 people lost their lives and 3,500 livestock were lost. Reports by La Republic of Cameroon CTV revealed that a Limnic eruption, also known as a lake overturn, took place, even though an intelligence report revealed that the La Republic of Cameroon government dropped a bomb in that lake. La Republic of Cameroon has maintained her narrative. The colonial government later evacuated the survivors to settlement camps, with one being at the Kimbe River. Over 12,000 survivors were later returned to seven permanent resettlement camps, including Buya Bua.
Well, the non-governmental Boabua Area Development Association, BADA, has been working to assuage the plight of survivors who are today scared of the same incident reoccurring. According to the vice president of BADA, the colonial La Republic government abandoned the survivors after 2 years. After the resettlement of the survivors in the camps, the La Republic du Cameroon's government provided food and medications to the survivors. After 2 years, the colonial government abandoned these survivors.
The victims had to struggle on their own to send their children to school, feed them, and cope with all the difficulties in life. The survivors suffered a lot after they were abandoned by the colonial La Republic of Cameroon government. Well, some of them says we had school dropouts and a lack of food because of a new land they were in, the vice president explained. Life today is very deplorable, especially as the Anglophone crisis has come and worsened the situation. At a certain time, the people in these areas had to run away. Houses were burned down and people were killed and slaughtered. Today, even the houses and camps the colonial La Republic of Cameroon government reserved for the survival have all been burnt down, he added.
Now, he went further to say that they have decided to raise funds and bring the village back to life. Some sons and daughters of this area, Boabua, today in celebration of the 37th anniversary of the village, have decided to use the occasion to raise funds to construct a hanging bridge at one of the rivers that is like a stumbling block for them to sell their products to neighboring villages. We are here today in Douala to commemorate this day and raise funds to link Boabua to other neighboring villages. Like in yours, that's what he said. Like in yours is the beginning of the La Republic program to kill the people of Ambazonia and facilitate the assimilation of the people of Ambazonia by the La Republic government.
Oh, well, an examination of conflicts around the world revealed that only lawless non state actors like ISIS, Boko Haram can launch attacks in hospitals. Well, today we are revisiting massacres that happened in 2019. Now, however, since declaring war on the minority English speaking people of the British Cameroons, the French Cameroon militia soldiers of Paul Biya have violated every rule governing armed conflicts. The quiet industrious community of Bole Bakundu in the southern zone of Amazonia was dealt with through an arrow in their heart by the soldiers of La Republic de Cameroon and their ICC candidate Okala Belaid on the 2nd of February 2019.
Well, the scene was their usually joyous local market day where the ruthless soldiers visited and unloaded their magazines indiscriminately. When the pandemonium ended, more than 15 innocent marketers were massacred. The claim from government-sponsored media both nationally and internationally was that these innocent people were terrorists. These bogus media abound are the government's mouthpieces. It is never bothered to comment on the gruesome massacres done by its ill-mannered soldiers.
Also, let's look at the Noni massacre of 8 March 2019. The massacre reached the village of Domi Noni subdivision of the northern zone of the British Southern Cameroons when teens were again massacred. The French Cameroon soldiers equally touched every home before reporting back to the genocidal French appointed Mr. Lily Afrique. Well, moving on. Liposuction, also called lipotomy or lipoplasty, is a type of cosmetic surgery that removes fat from under the skin. The procedure is not a weight loss method and does not remove fat from other parts of the body. Who performs a liposuction? A plastic or a dermatologic surgeon usually does the procedure on the hips, belly, thighs, buttocks, back, arm, and under the chin or face to improve their shape. But liposuction can also be done with other plastic surgeries, including facelifts, breast reduction, and tummy tucks.
Now, liposuction, a type of surgery, uses suction to remove fat from specific areas of the body, such as the stomach, hips, thighs, buttocks, arms, or neck. Liposuction also shapes these areas. That process is called contouring. Recently, women, especially celebrities around the world, have taken to liposuction. Many are proud about it, some flaunt it, to some, it makes them feel a little more confident.
Now, this particular report holds that a doctor who has been identified as a quack doctor, in this term we can use butcher, has butchered a female client in an attempt to reduce fat, that's liposuction. Now, these macabre incidents, as explained in the pictures you would be seeing, occurred in the neighboring La Republic du Cameroon West region. Here is a butcher calling himself a doctor without any certificate, without even a clinic facility, engaging himself in a risky adventure as a specialist in reshaping women using rudimentary equipment that ends fetal.
Well, as we speak, the butcher, or doctor if you want to call, is already helping the forces of law behind bars while his client's family is wailing in the mortuary, promising him hell. That's how it goes in a failed La Republic regime fraught with all corruption. Instead of him to get and the lady to get justice and him get the penalty he deserves, he's behind the counters trying to sort his way out after committing this gruesome murder.
All right, moving on, the octogenarian Mbaga Ngule, the colonial La Republic of Cameroon police board says these credit unions fund the Ambazonian War of Independence. Can you imagine that? Well, intelligence reports reaching ABC Amber TV has hinted that La Republic du Cameroon's police chief threatens a shutdown of all police credit unions in Amazonia, claiming they are the ones sponsoring the Amazonian Restoration Forces.
Now, what the annexationist colonial La Republic doesn't understand is that these credit unions existed and exist since the 60s, three police credit unions, one in Boya, Bamenda, and Bui. With this developing, it is now clear that failed La Republic will not stop at anything in their paradigm shifting since the senseless war broke out 7 years ago.
One of their targets was to eliminate all native or traditional doctors across Amberland whom they accuse of fortifying the dreaded ARFs. Their terrorizing occupier forces actually killed traditional doctors and burnt their houses, but still the Amazonian Restoration Forces remain indomitable. Glad the management of the police credit unions have asked the police chief to put the request in waiting or writing as they, the management, threaten court actions against that move.
That is how cruel La Republic kill the Amity Bank, City Trust Credit Fund, Cameroon Bank, the Produce Marketing Board, and the West Cameroon Development Agency, and more. Amazonia has got to strategize to prevent blood La Republic du Cameroon from destroying their last surviving financial institution. In Africa, Libyan authorities announced on Monday what they said was the deportation of 486 illegal migrants of Egyptian and Nigerian nationalities. The Minister of Interior for the Tripoli-based government, Major General Imad Trabilsi, said 192 migrants from Nigeria, including 102 who arrived from Tunisia, were due to be deported. He added a further 294 who had entered the country illegally from Egypt would be sent back to authorities in Cairo.
Well, Libyan authorities on Monday repatriated 161 Nigerians, officials said, part of a UN-backed voluntary return scheme as some North African countries see a spike in irregular migration. Interior Minister Ahmed Trablisi of the UN-recognized government based in the war-torn country West met the migrants before their departure.
In East Africa, Somalia has taken a significant step towards becoming the eighth member of the East African Community EAC, according to Peter Matuki, Secretary General of the organization. The EAC chief claimed Mogadishu had reached the negotiating stage during a news conference on Wednesday in Arusha, Tanzania. He also expressed optimism that Somalia will be admitted to the group this year. In order to determine Somalia's suitability, the EAC initiated a verification mission on January 25, 2023, after it submitted an application to join the community way back in 2012. The report of the verification team was approved by the EAC heads of state on June 6, 2023 in Bujumbura, allowing the Council of Ministers and the EAC Secretariat to start talks with Mogadishu.
And in West Africa, the African Union AU appears to have left room open for military intervention by a West African political bloc to restore democracy in Niger. While the AU issued a statement strongly opposing any military action from countries outside the continent, it offered a more ambiguous view on any intervention by the Economic Community of West African States ECOWAS, which has said it is prepared to send troops into Niger if diplomatic efforts to restore democracy, reinstate Bazoum fails, saying that it noted the stance of ECOWAS. It said it would ask the AU's Commission to examine implication.
And this is what is trending the most, and this would be our main focus on the African scene. Well, the statement follows a meeting of the AU's Peace and Security Council and reflects a more nuanced position on ECOWAS's potential intervention than had been anticipated from previous statements from the Union. Reports on the eve of the meeting, including in the French media, had raised the prospect that the AU would come out clearly against any military intervention, including by ECOWAS.
The AU suspended Niger from all its activities after the military coup on the 26th of July, reiterating calls for the coup leaders to release the elected President Mohamed Bazoum and return to their barracks. The AU also called on all of its member states and the international community to refrain from any action that could legitimize Niger's junta and said it strongly rejected interference from any actor or country from outside Africa.
The AU meeting came a day after ECOWAS rejected a proposed 3-year timetable from the head of Niger's junta, General Abdurrahmane Chiani, to return to civilian rule. His announcement followed a visit to Niger by a delegation from ECOWAS in a final diplomatic push. Abdel Fattah Musa, the ECOWAS Commissioner for Politics and Security, said on Monday that the 3-year transition is unacceptable. We want constitutional order to be restored as soon as possible, he said.
On Saturday, Tichani had accused ECO preparing to attack Niger in collaboration with a foreign army without naming which country. If any attack were to be undertaken against us, it would not be the work in the park, some people seem to think, he said. The junta's accusation coincided with a report in Le Monde that Bazoum had asked France in the early days of the coup to lend military aid in efforts to overturn it and free him. ECOWAS said last week it had agreed an undisclosed D-Day for a possible military intervention if diplomatic efforts failed, an escalation that would further destabilize the conflict-torn and impoverished region.
The Algerian report follows comments by Algeria's President Abdelmadjid Tebboune this month saying that a military intervention could ignite the whole Sahel region and Algeria will not use force with its neighbors. The North African country fears repercussions such as an influx of refugees into its territory. A government source familiar with the situation told reporters. Well, we are against the coup, but we are against a military action that would worsen the situation in Niger and beyond in the Sahel, the source, who asked not to be named, told reporters. As captivating as it gets, a Nigerian archbishop of Enugu ecclesiastical province of the Anglican Communion, His Grace Emmanuel Chukwuma, has condemned the planned invasion of Niger's republic by ECOWAS over last month's coup in the country.
The archbishops, during a chat with journalists, said the leadership of ECOWAS did not engage in proper consultation before issuing threats of war on Niger. He said that any military action on Niger will backfire on Nigeria and other West African states, adding that ECOWAS warmongering is proof of massive corruption amongst its leaders. For the large part, the recent upsurge in coup in Francophone West Africa is a backlash against French imperialism and neglect.
Well, there's this opinion that will second coups put Africans in a catch-22 situation, and any person of conscience could empathize with Francophone Africa for how it has been pillaged by the colonizer and relegated to a vassal status over the years, forbidden from determining its own currency. France dominated its currency as the CFA. It must save a certain percentage of its foreign earnings in French banks, but has no right to withdraw and use this money except France approves, and even then, an interest determined by Paris. If these issues were fiction, it would be ridiculous, but they are as real as the sun rises from the east.
All right, now let's go get the across the globe. Right, Argentine Mark Meadows asks federal court for Georgia's charges to be dismissed. Now, former Trump's chief of staff, Mark Meadows, has asked a federal court to order all charges against him brought by Fulton County, Georgia prosecutors last week to be dismissed, since he says the charges relate to his then role in the federal government.
And North Korea has launched its first ever cruise missile from a naval warship. The North Korean Navy celebrated a historic event. The service carried out the first in its history launch of a cruise missile from a warship. The missile aimed at launch of subsonic Hwasong-2 with a maximum range of 2,000 kilometers.
All right, Russia and Ukraine. Ukraine may use new Black Sea route for grain shipments, says producers. Ukraine is considering using its newly tested wartime Black Sea export for grain shipment after the first successful evacuation of a vessel along the route last week. This was said by a senior agricultural official from Ukraine.
Trump also plans to surrender this week, according to reports. Former President Donald Trump plans to turn himself in at the Fulton County Jail Thursday. Two sources familiar with the plan told CNN. Trump and 18 co-defendants have until noon ET Friday to voluntarily surrender to Georgia's authority after being criminally charged in the state's 2020 election subversion case.
All right, now let's go for the main report for tonight. Saudi border guards killed hundreds of Ethiopian migrants. Now, Saudi Arabian border have killed hundreds of Ethiopian migrants, including women and children, who attempted to enter the kingdom along its mountainous border with Yemen. Human Rights Watch said this yesterday. In a 73-page report, the rights group said Saudi guards used explosive weapons to kill some migrants and shot at others from close range. It's compiled testimony from 38 Ethiopians who tried to cross the Yemen-Saudi border between March 2022 and June 2023, as well as 4 relatives or friends of migrants.
Now, Human Rights Watch said attacks against groups of migrants who used remote mountain tracks to cross into Saudi Arabia by foot were widespread and systematic, and that the killings are continuing. A Saudi official who did not provide a name said on Monday in an emailed response to questions to the government's media office that Human Rights Watch allegations were, quote, unfounded and not based on reliable sources. Saudi authorities have also strongly denied allegations made by UN officials in 2022 that border guards systematically killed migrants last year.
A State Department spokesperson said the U.S. has raised concerns about the allegation in the report with the Saudi government and had urged it to undertake a thorough and transparent investigation. There are an estimated 750,000 Ethiopians in Saudi Arabia. According to UN studies, many have fled economic hardship in Ethiopia, which has also seen its northern province of Tigray revived by a brutal conflict in recent years.
Now, the migration route from the Horn of Africa across the Gulf of Aden through Yemen and into Saudi Arabia, one of the richest countries in the Arab world, is a well-established corridor for Ethiopian migrants. Human Rights based this report on witness testimony as well as 350 videos and photos of wounded and killed migrants and satellite imagery showing the location of Saudi Arabian guard posts. The advocacy group said, however, its researchers were unable to access the stretch of the Yemen-Saudi border where the alleged killings took place.
And coming up next is sports. Let's join Gab Ellison in the sports studio.
Latest world sports. Football. Spain case scandal continues to escalate. Vice President demands resignation. President of the Royal Spanish Football Federation, Luis Rubiales, continues to come under heavy political pressure to leave his position as the situation continues to escalate following his decision to kiss Jenny Hermoso without consent. Rubiales grabbed Hermoso during their World Cup victory celebrations and kissed her on the lips. After the incident, Hermoso was seen on a live stream saying she did not like it. Both came out publicly to arrest importance from the incident, with Rubiales calling it idiocy, while Hermoso asked people not to second-guess it. However, international domestic outrage have ensued, with various politicians asking for Rubiales to explain himself or to resign. He did the former on Monday afternoon, apologizing, although also admitting he didn't think it was that bad. Now, Spanish Vice President Yolanda Díaz has joined those demanding that Rubiales resign. We continue to call for the resignation of Rubiales, who has harassed and assaulted a woman. Your excuses are useless at all. However, Díaz did not want to focus purely on Rubiales and had praise for the players themselves, as Revelo recount. They have shown us many things about equality, not only in sports and football. They have shown us that there's still a lot to do in our country, that there's still a lot to do so that men and women can become equal. The players are victims of singularly retributive discrimination. As political pressure continues to grow, it remains to be seen how much longer Rubiales can hold on. So far, he has shown remarkable staying power since being in the position, riding out a number of scandals and damaging reports, including the leak of his messages with Gerard Piqué and Sagu Ramos last year. Yet, the fact that he was absent from Spain's public celebrations shows that he is aware of the climate around him. Sean Dyche. Sky Sports apologizes for insensitive comments about Everton manager's clothes. Sky Sports has apologized for insensitive comments made about Everton manager Sean Dyche during the 4-0 defeat by Aston Villa on Sunday. Commentators Bill Leslie and Andy Hinchcliffe said his clothing made him look like a croupier, someone who oversees gaming tables at casinos. Dyche was black ambered in memory of Michael Jones, who died working on the club's new stadium. A Sky spokesperson apologized for any upset or distress caused. Comments made during the Aston Villa vs Everton game were insensitive and regrettable, they added. We have spoken to everyone involved in the coverage, including both the commentators, and have reminded them of their responsibilities and the need for care and sensitivity. Both Leslie and former Everton defender Hinchcliffe have expressed regret at their comments. Construction worker Jones, 26, was fatally injured last week at the Bramley Moor Dock development, which Everton are yet to confirm a move-in date for. Players and coaching staff wore black armbands. Tribute banners were displayed and supporters applauded in the 26th minute at Villa Park in memory of lifelong Everton fan Jones. Jurgen Klopp took his Liverpool squad to lay flowers at the site near the River Mersey before their Premier League match with Bournemouth on Saturday. Lewis Hall. Newcastle signed Chelsea defender on loan before permanent deal next summer. Newcastle United have signed 18-year-old Chelsea defender Lewis Hall on loan and will make the deal permanent next summer. The England under-21 international made his Premier League debut for Chelsea in a 1-0 defeat at Newcastle in November. A fee of £28 million plus £7 million in add-ons will be activated at the end of the season. To now be here at Newcastle, the club that I've supported since I was a kid, I'm honored and I'm very proud to wear this shirt, Hall said. Me and my family are Newcastle fans, and for me and my brother growing up, it was drilled into us that we were Newcastle. It's a big club and I can't wait to get started. The deal for Hall, who came through the academy at Stamford Bridge, includes a sell-on clause for Chelsea should he leave Newcastle. He is best known for playing at left back, but also featured on the wing and in midfield for Chelsea. He made 11 appearances in all competitions last season, including 9 in the league, and was Chelsea's Academy Player of the Year in 2023. Newcastle manager Eddie Howe said he was delighted to sign Hall. He is a player we have tracked closely and have a number of clubs, so it's very pleasing to secure him and to add a player of his quality, versatility, and high potential to our squad, Howe said. Speaking before the deal was confirmed, Howe said Hall will be the last player Newcastle signed this summer. Newcastle has spent about £130 million on Sandro Tonali, Harvey Barnes, Tino Livramento, and Yankuba Minte this summer. Gab Ellison reporting for Undaunted, ABC Amba News.
Right, thank you so much, Gab Ellison, for that sports report. And that's it for tonight on Undaunted. But before we go, let's take a look at the major stories.
We're brought to you on Undaunted tonight. The lake in use 37 years after. Amazonians' War of Liberation revisiting the Bole Bakundu massacre.
All right, tonight on Undaunted, we told you that we encountered fake doctors, of course, unlicensed health practitioner accused a patient, and also closure of all police credit unions in Ambazonia. Also was a report we gave to you today. On the African scene, we brought to you the Niger stories, and of course, across the globe, the Argentine Mark Meadow Access Federal Court for dismissal of all Trump's cases. And that was it for tonight's Undaunted, bringing to the news untold stories. On behalf of Michael, Uncle, Mr. Smart, and the entire Undaunted crew, we say thank you for tuning in.
We leave you with ABC Amba TV images. Good night, and God bless you.